Thank you. Today, as you know, in Council, we discussed how we can collectively implement some of the key recommendations of the Secretary-General's report and protect civilians, as well as facilitate the unrestricted delivery of humanitarian aid. As you know, the United Kingdom has introduced a new United Nations Security Resolution to push the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to protect civilians and show and allow safe passage of aid. The resolution will focus on developing a compliance mechanism for the warring parties' commitments they made on the protections of civilians in Jeddah in 2023, and ways to support mediation efforts to deliver a ceasefire. The warring parties already have the power to protect civilians if they choose to listen to the Council's call for an immediate cessation of hostilities. But in the meantime, we call for both parties to agree humanitarian pauses, allowing the safe passage of civilians out of conflict zones, and to engage in efforts to secure scalable, locally negotiated ceasefires. The Sudanese armed forces must commit to keeping the Adre border crossing open for aid, and both sides must urgently facilitate the delivery of aid to those who need it in Sudan. It's simple. If border crossings close and if aid is stopped from getting to those who need it, millions more will be at risk of starvation and famine. Thank you. A couple of questions before I go.
South African Broadcasting. I wonder if you could talk a bit about the role of the Council in enforcing its own resolutions. As you might know, there was a ceasefire resolution passed in March calling for a Ramadan ceasefire. There was a June resolution calling for the siege of Al-Fasher to end. None of those resolutions got the parties on board. I mean, they remain unimplemented to this day. So I wonder, moving ahead now with this new resolution for another ceasefire, what's your expectation of the parties given the precedent that has already been set?
Well, I think the expectation is very much focused on the Secretary-General's report. I think the fact that we have a mechanism of compliance, which actually, getting those two warring parties to implement the decisions they agreed at Jeddah, and having a mechanism that actually builds confidence that both parties can come together to ensure that they do comply with international humanitarian law. That's the difference, I think. The Secretary-General is absolutely committed to that, and our resolution will be focused on that mechanism. At the end of the day, a ceasefire can only be reached if both sides agree to it, and that's why we need to build confidence into those Jeddah commitments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. The Sudanese ambassador today was complaining that the RSF is getting weapons through the Adre crossing, which I know your government and many others want to keep open for the delivery of humanitarian aid. Do you have any confirmation that the RSF is getting weapons through Adre, and what's your message otherwise?
We don't have confirmation of that. I mean, the simple fact is, if that crossing is closed, then, as I said in my statement, it will be a disastrous position for the population of Sudan. It is important that that crossing is open. It's the only way that we can get humanitarian aid in, and that includes humanitarian aid workers to distribute that aid. So absolutely vital that the SAF keep it open. Thank you very much. Thank you for your cooperation.